Ladies and gentlemen, welcome along to another edition of Rocket Mondays. I am your host, Enrong, of course, the guy who's running this league system here in Ireland within the Rocket League Ireland community. Joined on the desk today by actually my own teammate within NSG, another amazing Rocket League player in Panda. Panda, how are you getting on today?
I'm good. You know, got
Perfect.
1700 back this morning.
Happy out.
Good times.
Good times. All right. So, what we're going to do, guys, for those of you who don't know what this is, of course, it is a league system within Rocket League Ireland based off of the fact that there can be multiple people in a league. There can be up to 12, 14 people in a league, whatever number of people. And those people can queue into games 3 times a week. And the first 6 that get into a queue are put into a game. The teams are always different. They can never be the exact same teams when they play each other. And the way this is done is basically there are league systems set up just like there are in English football. From the top all the way down to the bottom, there would be teams promoting or players relegating and promoting rather than teams. And that's basically how it works. This podcast, of course, is just to keep everyone interested in the league, of course, give everyone an insight into the stats, the workings of it, and kind of show people where they can improve and show where people have excelled in the past. So, Panda, we're going to get things kicked off straight away by hopping into Division 3, which was the beef division, I would have called it, before this week. But we'll talk about that when we come to Division 2. But Division 3 has had some beef in the past, but there has been some settling of that this week. And it's done it again. Give me 1 second there now. Okay, so Panda, in Division 3, we have had some interesting things happen this week, okay? We had Cowardly Viking, Paddy and Rez. They took down Dormer, John AK Always, and Joseph 3-1 in what looked like it could have actually been maybe an upset at the time. Dormer, John, and Joseph took game one, but unfortunately, then they got beaten in the next 3 games after that. Rez, Dormer, and Darcy ended up 3-0ing Joseph, Carrick, Dan, and Dimitrov, which I think maybe was a little bit of a surprise, would you think, there in that game? Or what are your thoughts on that second game in particular? Because for me, that was a slight surprise. I thought Dan may have been able to carry those other two and is back a bit better.
Yeah, to be fair, like Dan is a pretty good player for this league. Probably gonna get promoted. Maybe even Poddy as well. But I don't think it was an upset. Quite hard to carry two people in threes.
Okay. And the final game then, another 3-1 game. In fact, all games on Sunday were 3-1 games, Panda. But this one was in favour of Cowardly Viking, Rez, and Darcy. And all three of those guys now have won every game they've competed in this week, as far as I'm aware. And that was a win over Airside Dormer and Captain Quark there. Big wins there, and as you can see, Panda, it's reflected in the table now. Carrickdown, of course, still leading on 2.8 with Paddy as well up there. The huge underdog, the Leicester City story, we call it, Panda. Question for you is, can Paddy maybe keep this up? Or are we asking too much?
Honestly, depends on like the draw of the teams. And like if he builds up enough wins, he probably won't have to play again. If he gets a certain amount of points, if I'm correct.
Yeah. But the other question is then, if he doesn't, are we saying it's a foregone conclusion that Darcy will get into that third spot with Rez? Or would we be looking at maybe a Cowardly Viking or
Honestly,
Captain Quark getting in there?
honestly, I could see anyone from like maybe even Dormer, but like Airside and Joseph above getting into that third place.
Hmm.
Rez might be a bit comfortable because he's been playing well from what I've heard.
Yeah. So you think Rez is pretty much already there then in that case?
Yeah, if he keeps playing the way he's playing, he should be.
Okay. Okay, lads. What we're going to do then is we're going to get straight into the statistics because that's why we're all here, of course, in the chat. I can see you, Carrick Dan. Yes, Liam, thanks for coming in as well. Um, let's get straight into the chat, or sorry, to get straight into the points then, Panda. And let's have a look firstly at the points per game, right? So Dan is, of course, clearly on top in this league, and you already pointed it out that he's maybe a level above this league. Maybe he's just a bit too good, and it's reflected in his points per game. He's the only one averaging over 400, and that's really the money maker, I think. If you're averaging over that much, you're kind of carrying your team. You're making a lot of touches on the ball, and it's reflected in his win percentage as well, Panda, 75%. Are there any more superlatives that we can say about Dan here? Is there anything else we can say about him that he's just too good for this division, or?
I mean, I don't know, man. He's just a bit of a beast, isn't
Bit
he? For the division, he's just a bit of a beast. He's like top of nearly every stat.
Top of the leaderboard in every stat, yeah. But let's not spare anything either for Airside, Dormer, Darcy, Rez. I'd say they're all doing decent jobs, in particular Airside and Dormer in terms of points per game, Panda, averaging 371 and 365. However, Dormer with a 36% win ratio, Airside with a 41%. Does that mean they're ball chasing or they're having to carry? What would you read into that?
I mean, I don't see Dormer as airside as like ball chasers. I see them as quite defensive players. Well, not really airside. Airside's kind of like the mid player, but even you can see in Dormer's I think has the most saves in the league.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure. Yeah, but I don't think it's ball chasing. I think it's like maybe they get like the one or two bad teammates. Not even bad, like not
Not at that
up to
level.
the other level of the other team.
Yeah, Rez saying in the chat that you're a toxic CS:GO player, and the reason why these teams or these players don't win is because they don't have him on his team. What would you say to
Yikes, Rez.
that?
That hurt, right? That one hurt.
Right, next one up is goals. So we're going to look straight into this again, Panda. And again, one name dominates the stats here. And I mean, last week when I asked Dan afterwards, he was like, "Oh, why are you so nice to me and all this?" I'm like, "We're not nice to you. We're pointing out the fact that you are leading the stats. You are completely in control of this league." And the reality is, he is really in control, isn't he? Like Rez and Darcy are the only ones above what I would say the good number, 0.7 goals per game. He's on 1.63. What have you got to say about, I guess, okay, we talked a lot about Dan. What about Rez and Darcy? Tell us about them too. They've
I
got good
mean,
win percentages as well, haven't they?
yeah. Like Darcy, I think he probably thinks he shouldn't be in Division 3, which he hasn't really proved that at the moment. Like, if he wanted to say that he wasn't like a Division 3 player, he should have been Division 2. He should be performing like, let's say, Dan is.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that, who thinks he should be in Division 2 and competing for that. But he's doing, like, reasonably well. He's fighting for promotion spots, and Rez looks to be not the goal scorer, but usually getting most assists. Is he? Yeah.
Yeah, he's getting.
He used to be the assister.
Yeah, he's more of the assister, I would say, as well, which we'll see there in a moment. But he's still putting away the goals. He's number 2 in goals, so I mean, clearly he's doing something right in that regard. But then let's look down at the bottom of both these stats again. Now, we're not going to talk about bad points because I don't want to reflect too much on negatives, right? Unfortunately for Mr. John, aka Always here, Dimitrov, who has only played 2 series, of course, a little bit difficult to read into it at this stage, but Paddy, Joseph in particular, all below 0.5 goals per game, Panda. They really need to work on that, don't they?
Yeah, like, I mean, you should be at least over like 0.65 goals per game, I would say. Like, if you're not over that, you're not doing enough for your team. In my opinion, anyways.
Mm-hmm. But conversely, Paddy's got that win percentage right beside his name there, 72.23%. So clearly, he's been in Dan's back pocket, or his backpack rather.
Well, it depends. Like, if you have a really high assist, like assists per game, I guess you can kind of like leave him off if he has low goals per game. At least he's creating chances for his team.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to be creating chances, or if you're not doing any of them, you're not doing well enough, in my opinion.
Okay, and then spare top for both, I would say Joseph, Dimitrov, and John AK always, Panda. I don't know if you've got points open again, but they're the bottom 3 in those. They're the bottom 3 of 4 in goals per game. Are these 3 just not maybe fit for this division, or am I being a little bit too harsh here?
Dimitrov, I'm not sure about because he's only played two games, but like you never know, he could become another Paddy and just start winning every game. But John AK always, but like you always kind of saw him as underdog. I'm pretty sure he's the lowest ranked now, or
he is.
You can kind of expect him not to like, but then again, his teammates might not be letting him do anything if he's getting that many low points, or he's just getting enough of the ball.
And then Joseph.
Oh, let me find Joseph.
His points aren't great, and his goals are 0.3 per game. He's clearly a man who thinks he's. I think it's fair to say, thinks he's a bit better than a lot of players at this level, but he's not showing it, is he?
I think he's good. I think he's good enough player for this level, maybe even to fight promotion. But I don't think he's. I think he's definitely underperforming, like quite like substantially underperforming from what I'm used to seeing from him.
Okay, perfect. Let's move on then, Panda, to assists and saves. Let's start with assists first. And you're right. You mentioned Paddy. If he's creating chances, he's doing a good enough job if he's not scoring them. And look who's number 1 in assists per game. And pretty much, I would say, none of them are above the 0.7 assists per game, which is where I'd say is really good. but there's 5 of them at 0.5 or higher. In particular, the top four: Paddy, Dan, Rez, and Quark, all hitting that 0.6 and 0.63, 0.67 there. And it's reflected, I guess, in the win percentages for these guys because they're the ones who are coming away with the most wins. So maybe assists translate to wins. What are your thoughts here on these four? In particular, I guess Paddy again.
I mean, I mean, like if Paddy's been playing with, I'm pretty sure he's playing with Dan a lot, and Dan's a really good shooter of the ball. So like, if he's putting those passes to good players who are good shooting, like you're gonna win games quite easily because passing is a very very effective way of scoring, especially in low ranks.
Yeah.
You know what to pass in low ranks, you're gonna fly through ranks
Absolutely.
and wins.
Absolutely. And Dan in the chat saying Panda not holding back and he loves it. And Rez says Joe has more goals than he does goals. One of the own goals made it on Rocket League Daily or Rocket Daily's Kappa. So yeah, Joe did put one of those into Rocket Daily. So well done there to Joe for that. You have to do something. The other thing I want to mention there as well, out of the top five or top four rather, Captain Quark is also up there in 0.6. He hasn't been prevalent in the other stats. Is he doing enough on the offense then in that regard by not being too high on the other ones?
I mean, the 0.69 is a bit. It's like all right for goals, and he's one of the highest in assists per game. So you can say he's doing like enough of both. Like not great in one or another, but he's doing enough of both.
Okay. Perfect. And let's look at the lower side then. Anything below 0.5 is not ideal, but anything below, I would say 0.3 is just not good enough. Is it? Dimitrov's at 0. He's had no assists in 7 games. Now, he's been on the weaker team twice in both series he's played. Is that a valid excuse? Really?
I mean, it could be for like a. I don't know. Not really. Like
Yeah.
you should be at least making some assists
Okay.
in 7 games.
And then, I mean, the only guy out of the bottom 4, bottom 5, Darcy's on 61% win percentage. Cowardly Vikings on 50%. So he's won half his games, but he's on 0.12, assists in 18 games. That's not nearly enough, is it?
Oh no, no, just not even close.
Yeah, but from what I've seen of him, he is a very midfield-oriented player, so maybe that's why he's getting in there. He's not getting the passes, but he's putting a lot of pressure in the midfield. We won't talk any more about John. We already know about his stats there, and we'll come to him maybe a little bit later and more of a discussion on him because I don't want to be picking on people. It's the same with Dormer as well. His games haven't been going the best for him, but we'll come to him later. Let's move on to the saves now, Panda. Okay, and I need to make this a bit bigger because for some reason every time I open up Streamlabs it resets it to the old files. Dormer is number 1 in saves per game, and he's the only one above 1.5, right, which is good, I would say. And anything above 2 is really good, but anything above 2.5, I'd say, is too much. Panda, Dormer, 36% win ratio, 31 saves in 19 games, 1.64 saves per game. Like, is he spending too much time on defense? Is
From
he
what
just
from
too
what I can
mechanically
see,
good?
from what I can see, even without looking at like the games he played, it looks like he's not trusting his teammates and he's just staying back because like he doesn't trust them to hit the ball, and he's just afraid to go forward for like a counter attack.
Hmm.
That's what it looks like from the stats, but it could be different. He just likes playing defense.
Yeah, okay, that's fair enough. I guess that's a fair enough comment to make on that as well. Dimitrov, of course, 1.29 saves per game. To be fair, he's only played 7 games, but he's still second in that stat. And Paudio's up there as well, and so is Airside. However, conversely, you look below, you've got Rez, Captain Quark, and John AKO as the bottom 3 there, with less than 1 save per game. These guys aren't doing enough on defense, would you say, clearly? Or am I being too
Yeah,
harsh in Rez's case, considering he's 3rd in the league?
I mean, it depends on the other stats. If they're like doing really well offensively, you can kind of like give let them off a bit. As for other stats, if with saves, like was it like only having like 0.1 off 1 save per game isn't like too bad. I've seen worse, like my saves per game. But anyways, it's all right. Like as long as they're doing more on offensive, you can kind of let them away with the
Yeah.
defensive side.
No, and I would agree with that as well. Like, for instance, we got Carrick Dan, who's, just above the 1 save per game on 1.07, but he's clearly doing enough on offense and both the assists and the goals per game. But however, I mean, like, again, John 0.65, he's not getting forward, he's not making the saves, he's not making the goals. He's just not touching the ball enough. Does he need to ball chase more? Like, what would you say to him if he can't?
I mean, try like tell his teammates is like try letting ball chase, because usually if you're a weaker player on the team, you would try to ball chase, put as much pressure on them to let the other players use their mechanics or like their passing abilities, because that's what I used to do when I used to play with like people who were higher than me. I used to just ball chase for them, and it usually worked, but sometimes it doesn't in some cases. But
yeah. Okay, perfect. Let's move on into the final one, which is shooting percentage, your favorite word, of course, in the dictionary. And in relation to this, there is one standout player again, and I guess since it's going to be the last time, well, the second last time we're going to talk about this division on today's cast. Carrick Dan, 44% shooting accuracy, 3.6 shots per game. He's number one in win percentage, number one in shots, number one in shooting per game, shots per game, and shooting percentage. He's just an offensive monster, isn't he?
It's the only way to put it.
I mean, like,
Absolute beast.
no one's even near 3 shots a game. Like, the next closest is Dormer on 2.69, and that's it. And he's nearly on 4. He's like 3.63. Before you talk about the other boys in this, actually, I'm going to answer a few questions in the chat. Is Dan a much higher rank than the rest of the lads in Division 3, or is he just performing well? I would say Dan is the highest in Division 3. At the time, he didn't really play threes, so to me, it appeared that he wasn't as high as, say, a Junior or a Jamingo. Had I known the way it was be now, I would have said one of those two would probably be lower, if that answers that question. But Dan has obviously been performing well. But obviously, if I could turn
And
back
consistently.
time, yeah, and he's been consistently performing well. Yeah, Dan is a bit higher. He's GC in twos, and okay, cool. He's Div 3 because he never played threes. Okay, cool. First season, cool. All right, perfect. Let's talk about the other ones then. Rez, Captain Quark, Cowardly Viking, Darcy, all above 30% shooting accuracy, and all of them putting up okay stats. The rest of the board, Rez slightly higher in shots. But the other two of Quark, Viking, and Darcy, sorry, the other three rather. Darcy's doing okay as well in shots per game and obviously his win percentage, but they're not really doing much. So is it good that they're putting away so many chances when they're not creating that many chances, or what would you say?
I mean, like, if you're not making a lot of chances but you're putting them away, it should be fine. But, like, that means it's more counter-attack, I'd say, instead of actually having, like, ongoing pressure, like shots on net all the time. That's from what it looks like, they're scoring a lot of counter-attack goals.
Yeah.
I would just
open net
play
solo
defense,
plays,
then scoring. Yeah.
A lot of their goals in this division are open net solo plays. Like, a lot of the goals aren't assisted, as you saw with the assist per game. The number one player is 0.67, which is really low when you think about it compared to the other divisions. But again, then let's talk about conversely on the other side. Joseph and John AK always at the bottom. It seems like a familiar pattern with the two J's here. And not to be harsh on these two guys, but below 20% just isn't ideal, and 19% and 18%, they got to work on their shooting. They got to get into free play, would you say, and just keep pounding away to practice shots.
I mean, anything above 25%, you could say you're doing okay. Anything above 30%, you say you're doing good in shots. But 18 and 19 isn't really ideal, and they're not really putting up a lot of saves per game either. Well, Joseph's doing all right in that, but John Akill isn't.
Is nowhere near
so
it. Yeah,
you have to be doing something.
John's going to have to change it. So let's talk about John, because he's obviously looking like the weak link in this division. How we obviously talked about ball chasing, but is there anything else he can do to help his game? He just need to grind the game a bit more, or are there other things he can do in regard to it?
Just find something that you think you struggle on the most and just practice it. Like, say if you don't think your mechanics are up to scratch, just try work on your mechanics, like your aerial shots, your half flips, stuff like that, just to make you better on defense. Backboard clears even.
Okay.
Get Rob's backboard clear.
Yeah.
Pack,
You can find that in the training advice if you scroll up about 10,000 lines. Okay, Panda. Final thing again. Let's look at the table in Div 3 and give me your predictions on who's going to go up there shortly. But let me just run through it again. Carrick, Dan, Paddy, and Rez are all leading at this moment in time in the top 3. Darcy's very close to Rez, only 0.29 off him on average points. Vikings a little bit back. Quark and Airside are also, I would say Captain Quark is in the running. Airside as well, because he hasn't played that many games. But the rest below him, I would say, are out of the running now for promotion. Firstly, would you agree on that? Everyone below Airside.
Yeah, I'd agree on that.
Okay, and secondly, who do you think is going to promote?
I say it's going to stay the same, except Rez is going to be above Paddy. That's my prediction. I'm expecting a Paddy wonder story.
Okay.
I believe in the Dublin.
Okay, perfect.
I think he's from.
He's from Louth, but anyway.
Oops.
Well, he lives in Louth. Maybe he's from Dublin. We'll find out. We'll ask him. Paddy, are you there in the chat? If you are, let us know. Panda, let's move on to Division 2. And for some reason, one of these stats is up and it's wrong. Okay, perfect. So, Panda, Division 2 right now. So, obviously, this is the division of beef, I would call it, after the happenings of this week. We had 3 different players telling me that they wanted to quit, that they weren't happy with certain things, etc. But they all calmed down afterwards, or they all settled down a little bit. My question to you is, firstly, as a guy who has obviously been frustrated with games you've had in the past, no matter what. I mean, you play with me, goddammit. Like, what would you say to these? what would you say to these guys who are thinking about quitting? Next day, they've obviously calmed down, but you just gotta control the emotions, don't you?
if you're complaining about other people, just focus on your own game. You shouldn't really care what other people do. If they make a mistake, it's whatever. Everyone makes mistakes. I mean, it's a different story if they're throwing, but like if they're making mistakes, everyone makes mistakes. You make mistakes. Just focus on your own game.
Perfect.
Like, just try to be happy with yourself playing the game. And if you're not happy with yourself, try to do better next time or something like that.
Then you got to work on it. Cool. All right, Panda. Let's open up the table for Division 2. Lawler, of course, is in a commanding position, and he looks pretty unstoppable, I would say, at this moment in time in Division 2. Jay Dupre is also looking quite good from the 2 series he's played. He's swept in both of them as well, and Krungus obviously swept in his 1 and only series so far. Conversely, on the other side, Matto, of course, for those of you who don't know, he will play maybe later on the season if he is, but he might not, so he might drop out of the division yet. We're not 100% sure. He's got stuff going on in real life at the moment. Otherwise, it's your friend Linksy, who is struggling a little bit, but he had his first win. Royzer, Jamingo Jr., all down there as well. And on the other side, you got Pat, Chef, Sam, Berry, Haskell. They're all looking good, I would say, pretty much upwards. So Junior down, Berry up, I would say, are looking kind of thereabouts. Firstly, there's no game on Tuesday. No one in the queue. So we got 2 additions to the league. Mr. Dave Forehead, of course, who is Champ 2 Div 4, and Haskell 3 or Haskell 2, who is Champ 3 Div 3, I think it is. Both Irish, of course, there. So Haskell 2 came in with Royzer and Pat, their first game, and they got 3-1 by Lawler, Jamingo, and LTX Sam. And then Haskell 2, LTX Sam, and Linksy came along, and they ended up beating Pat Jr. and Jamingo 3-1 as well there, and that's what's happened to the table. Let's have a quick talk, and we'll come back to this again as we always do at the end. Lawler obviously impressive.
Yep. Very. 4-0 is quite a substantial lead.
Mm-hmm. And anyone you've been disappointed with or questioning their ability in this league, maybe at this moment, just from what you can see?
Jamingo, Jamingo's mechanics, I would have thought would have helped him a lot to be a bit better than 10th in the league.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure about his positioning stuff, but his mechanics are pretty good from what I've seen, and his positioning isn't too bad.
So you're a bit surprised he's all the way down there. Okay, cool. Yep. Perfect. I mean, maybe you were watching a different game to what I watched during the week, but I would disagree with that. Okay, let's move on then, Panda. We're going to look at points first, again, as we always do in these ones. So, guys, just so you know, we always go through the table, then we go points, we go to goals, we go to assists, saves, and then the shooting on that. So let's look at the points then first off there instead. So, big story, Lawler's number 1. Let's ignore Krungus because he's only played the 1 series, and the same with Matto. Okay, everyone else has played 2 series, okay? So ignore Krungus. Lawler is the standout in the division. It's very clear to see with 80% win ratio and 23 points per game. Again, can we talk enough about this guy? He's clearly probably doing enough to get to Division 1. Would you agree?
Yeah, very. Yeah, scoring in the goals, 1.6 is quite good.
Mm-hmm. And on the other side, Jay Dupre's only played 2 series. He's 3-0 both of them. 386 points per game. So he's obviously doing a good job in those 2 series as well. And he's one to watch out for, I would say, considering that both times he's played, he's absolutely smashed it. You haven't probably seen any of this guy, have you?
Nope. Okay. I haven't seen any of the Division 2 games, I don't think. Saw a bit of junior stream.
Yeah. Cool. But in relation to the points, though, his points, I'd say Sam's and Pat's are all pretty good at you, which I would say, from looking at this. Would you agree with me?
Yep. Pretty good.
Yeah. And conversely, then, I mean, like, everyone's above 300, which is kind of surprising. If you look at all the other leagues, there's always someone below that. But Junior's the standout here, right? I mean, he's on 279 points per game. He's not touching the ball enough. And his win percentage isn't great either. So is there anything you can say here to this guy in regards to that?
I mean, Junior's quite... I'm pretty sure he used to play ones a lot, so you should probably, use a bit of his one skill. Try maybe get some goals or something, or just pass it in middle with a flick or something like that. It'd be very handy if you're not getting that many points. It means you're not either creating chances or you're just not doing enough.
Okay, cool. And the other 4 other guys that I want to point out again, Pat Dodd, of course, Jamingo, Royzer, and Linksy, they're all below 50% win percentage. These guys need to put in a bit more work, would you say? Because obviously they're not winning the games, even though they're putting up good stats. I would probably maybe ignore Pat Dodd here, because his points are quite good. But below 350, they're maybe not doing enough, would you say? In particular, Royzer and Linksy?
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Okay, cool. All right, then let's move on then to goals per game, right? And the big news here, of course, is again we have another Carrick-Dan in the division, but his name isn't actually Carrick-Dan, it's Lawler. And Panda, with stats like this, it's easy to see why he'll be promoting. I would say maybe it's too early to say yet, but it looks like he will be promoting all the way to Division 1. Would you agree with this? And how impressive is he to be doing these kind of stats in a stronger division than Division 3? There's no real bots in this division, I would say. You know, like weaker players, players that are a little bit out of their depth. What would you say?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Everyone can, like, give each other a good game. No one's going to really get carried or anything. Well, you might get carried. No one should be getting.
No one should be getting. Okay, cool. And I guess then the other question I would have then as well is based on the goals per game as well. Hasko's come in. He's played 8 games and he's putting up 0.88 goals per game. Same with Jay Dupre. He's played the 6 games, of course. And Pat Dot and Royser are all doing a good job there. Impressed with these guys just based off of their stats, would you say?
Yeah, looks pretty good. Looks pretty solid.
Okay, cool. And Rez wants to know, Panda, do you only have the words yes, no, basically, pretty solid, pretty much in your vocab?
And shooting percentage.
There you go. Okay, and finally, tell us a little bit more. Junior, Jamingo, and Mato. Let's ignore Mato. Junior and Jamingo, Panda. I want you to be a little bit more elaborate. I want you to elaborate more on these two. They're not doing enough on offense. What do they need to change with these shots? Because they're not scoring enough.
It looks like to me, 0.42 goals per game and 0.36 assists per game for Junior is either he's booming up the field and not thinking about what he's doing and just trying to get the ball away and panicking, or I don't know, man, that's what it kind of looks like. He's just not thinking about what he's doing. Because, to have that low goal per game and assists per game means, you're just kind of giving the ball away, not making anything with it.
So you think he's transitioning the ball incorrectly? He needs to work on that a bit more.
Yeah, he needs to give it to a teammate instead of just giving it back to him, because that's what it looks like. If you're not getting any assists or any goals, you're not either positioning yourself correctly or you're not transitioning out of defense correctly.
Okay, cool. Panda, assists is up next. Ignore Krungus once again and Mato, as we always do on these lists. Lawler, even though he's number 1 in goals per game, he's number 1 basically in assists per game, 0.67. Linksy, your boy, he's up there in 0.65, so he's doing enough on offense, you would say, considering his assists are quite high. And Hasko again right up there as well. Jamingo's doing a decent job on the offense as well. So Sam, JT Primberry just about doing enough. The rest aren't. What would you say here about, I would say, the top 3, 4, Lawler, Linksy, Hasko 2, Jamingo? Doing a good job?
Yeah, doing a good job on the offense. I'd expect that from Jamingo and Lawler and all them, because they have really good mechanics, especially for Champ 3s?
Champ 3s and GC. So you're looking at Champ 2 Div 4 here up to 1550 MMR roughly. So yeah.
Yeah, they're doing enough on offense. You can quite see that from the stats. Maybe probably should be a bit higher on the assists, I would say.
Cool. And then conversely, then Pat Dot Jr., Chef, and Royser in particular. Chef and Royser in particular, I would point out here. They're not doing anywhere near enough on the passing side of the game, would you say? And I mean, clearly for those two in particular at the bottom, they're just giving the ball away. They're not opening up the defense. They're not creating chances. What can they do to change this?
Well, actually, I used to be probably the worst if we're not passing. What I actually used to do is I used to go into shooting things instead of shooting the ball. I just practice putting it down left, putting it right instead of always trying to shoot.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I did to work on my passing, and then tried to put it into a ranked game or something like that, and it's worked out mostly a lot better at assists. And my stat in assists went a lot up in the game I played recently.
Yeah, absolutely, and I would agree with that. Okay, but to answer my question more thoroughly, I would say Chef and Royser in particular, are they doing enough on offense? Let's look again to their goals per game, Panda. Royser putting up 0.7 goals per game, fine. 0.24 assists per game, so in total he's participating in 0.94. So he's participating in less than a goal per game. That's not really good enough, is it?
Yeah, no, that's not good at all.
And even worse, Chef 0.29, and he's putting up 0.58, which is lower than Royser by about 1, so it's 0.88 or something like that roughly. I can't remember, I'm not going to do the maths in my head, guys, but it's 0.87, that's the one. He's clearly not doing enough on offense, this Chef, and it's reflected in his win percentage, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree, but I do see Chef as a quite defensive player, but he still should be putting up a bit more assists per game and goals per game than what he's putting up.
Okay.
In my opinion.
Cool. Saves, Panda, we're nearly there. We're nearly done Division 2, and then you can shit talk Division 1 for all it's worth. Can't wait. Okay? I see their cans. You can turn off the stream when it gets to Division 1. You don't have to look because no one wants to see us, to be honest. Don't worry about that, man. Alright? So, Panda, what are we on again? Saves, yes. So, Jamingo, 1.84 saves per game. Sam, 1.67. Jay Dupre, and let's ignore Matto again. The top three are playing a very defensive game, would you say?
Yeah, from the stats, and you can definitely tell like people like Lawler are playing a very offensive game.
Mhm.
He has the lowest saves per game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you can get away with that, as you correctly pointed out. Maybe he's not maybe doing quite enough on defense, but you can get
Yeah,
away with it when you're putting up so many shots and so many goals. I think it's fair to say you can get away with that. But yeah, maybe these guys maybe need to transition a bit better out of defense and try not to spend as much time on defense. Would you agree with that, or is it better to be able to make these saves?
I mean, it's always good to have a defensive player on the team, but like if you have to like kind of realize if you have like another defensive player, you have to kind of be putting up goals and like assists and stuff like that and shots.
Yeah.
All depends on if who you have in your team really.
Okay, and I would agree with that. And at the lower end of the division, it's only Lawler who's got to be looking at his defense and be like, okay, I'm not doing enough. But clearly, if he's putting up the shots, he doesn't need to change his game plan at the moment in this division. Would still stick by that point?
Yeah, because like he's winning division by like quite a good bit
Yeah, he's well
in
ahead.
points.
Hmm. And Haskell and Krungus. Krungus only played one series. Berry, they're all doing okay, I would say. So let's not talk anymore about them. It's doing a decent job here. Pretty straightforward here in regards to the to this division and their stats. The final thing, Panda, is the shooting. Your favorite thing, of course, once again.
Should have said it.
There we go. He had to plug that on stream because Timsy probably asked him to. All right, Lawler is doing a phenomenal job again, and it's a very Carrick Dan story. Carrick Dan actually probably modelled himself after the Lawler, I'd say, based on these stats here. Highest shots per game. His shots per game are nearly 4 per game, Panda. That's insane. That's so high. And his shooting percentage is pretty good. 40, well, not pretty good. Amazing, really. When you think about it, above 40% is really good. 42.86%. He's doing a phenomenal job here in offense, isn't he? And he's really a step above the other players in this division so far from what we can see. Would I be right in saying that?
And yeah, you would be. Like 3.74 is quite insane. Like that's and having 42% of those 3.7 shots go in per game, it's a bit nuts.
Yeah.
That's extreme.
A lot of pressure. On the other side of things, then Haskell, of course, has he's only won half his games, 4 out of the 4, but he's won a series, lost a series, right? He's put up low shots, average-ish shots per game, but his shooting percentage is quite high. Should he try and get in the offense more then? If he's got a good shooting percentage like that, or is that just the stats telling us that he's putting away what chances he gets, which are good chances? How would you read into that?
And he's probably just not getting a lot of chances, but if he's putting them away, should be alright. Like 38% of your shots going in is pretty good if you're not having that many shots.
Okay. And Panda, finally, I've always said that anything above 25% is above 20% is okay, and that's pretty much everyone in the division. Even Matt, who's only played one series, is there. But for the guys below 25%, they need to maybe go hit those training packs just to get above that, because at the end of the day, if you're taking 4 shots in a game, which is likely, less than 4 shots, which is pretty likely, should I say, you need to be putting at least one of those away, don't you? And none of these boys below this have that. Sam, Pat, Chef, and Junior.
Yeah. There's actually a really good training pack that I can barely do, but it's called Shots You Shouldn't Miss, and like it's actually like really good training pack because it's like basically shots you're always going to get in the game, and you have to get it in without it bouncing. It has to be like a good shot for it to go in.
There you go.
Maybe something they should use.
Maybe if anyone wants to hit Panda up for that training pack after the stream, you can do so. Just PM him. He'll answer you on Discord, and I'm sure he can maybe even put it up in training advice for ease of access. Panda, maybe you can do that afterwards. But yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Guys, let's have one last look again on Division 2 before we move on to Division 1. Right, I want you to call it for me. Right now, Forehead will play games because I've asked him, will he? And he said yes, right? So assuming he's going to play his games, let's look at relegation first, because we've got to get the bad stuff out of the way. And people who have said this to us, someone has to relegate. And I've had this discussion in this league, Panda. A lot of these guys would have seen it. I'm not trying to pick on anyone, but the whole point of the league system is that there's movement between the divisions. That it keeps it fluid, it keeps it interesting all the way through. You can't just have people promoting and not having someone relegating, because then it just becomes very top heavy. Who do you think will relegate based off of what you can see currently, or do you want to call people who you think will relegate?
I'm going to say Royzer, Domingo, and Junior.
Interesting. Right.
Junior's between it's Junior or Linksy. That's what I'm saying between. Don't want to do my boy Linksy like that, but that's who it's between. Domingo and Royzer probably looking like they're gonna go down, and
Yeah. Okay.
fluid
Fair.
between
I
Linksy and
probably
Junior.
disagree with the Riser one. I think he said he's been unlucky with his teams. That stuff balances out. I mean, he could get Lawler on the other team for the rest of the season, but like, if you're good enough, you'll win those games. I mean, for me, I don't think he'll go down. I do think Junior will go down. I think his points per game and his general stats will catch up on him. Domingo's defense might be good enough if he keeps getting good offensive players, so it's hard to call that. Linksy hasn't really impressed me. I'd say Linksy, Jimingo, and Junior will go down at the moment. Unfortunately, sorry, Linksy. You know, I guess you kind of are my boy too, but Panda is more of your boys, so sorry about that one, man. Panda, your top 3 to go up.
Lawler, Krungus, Sam.
Ooh, Sam, no J to pray. Oof, okay, fair. I'll take that. I would probably keep the top 3 as it is, or if I was going to make a change to it, I'd probably say Haskell. I'd say at the moment has been very impressive in the 2 series I watched him in. He's not really been at fault for goals, and he's been creating a ton of chances on the offense. And I think had he not played Lawler in his first game, or I think if his teammates had been a bit more stable on defense, I think they could have won that game because they won the first game in that series, or they won one of the games in that series rather. Right, Panda, that's to win that one. You think all the others are going to be fine? Wait, did you just predict Forehead not to relegate? Can I ask that?
Yeah, Forehead is nuts for each player, man. I'd relegate to Division 2 just to get Forehead in Division 1.
What? Okay, fair enough. Right, boys. It's the big division right next, Panda. We're going to talk to you a bit more in depth about this as we go along. So, Premier Division, boys, just stay with us, of course. We will get to the Premier Division momentarily, of course. But Panda, your league, my league, Division 1. And it's been dominated by one name at the top. He hasn't played in the last week. Not sure if he's Q dodging. Not sure what his story is, but we'll find out at some stage. I'm sure there has been a bit of Q dodging with this man. But Jakey has been leading this division, and Winter has also been very impressive in this division. And conversely, on the other side of it, Jakey, Crossy, and Cans have been questionable at best. Firstly, what are your thoughts on this in general? And do you think there's a clear I think this division and Division 3, there's like a very noticeable difference from top to bottom, would you say, compared to Division 2 and Premier?
Yeah, but that's because there's very widespread in ranks.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm pretty sure there's like 15, like 16 people,
upwards,
and then like Timsy's 1800 and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Quite a widespread.
It is indeed, but I guess making for some interesting games and interesting cues. But here's the question. Here's another question I have for you, then. Do you think the table has been fair at the moment? I look at Timsy. I see him in 9th place. He's played 6 games. He's lost 4 of them. He's been on weaker teams. I would say 3 times. I wouldn't say 4. I would say 3 times. Has he been unlucky, or has he not been doing enough considering of the rank
I
he was
mean,
at?
2 games I played him against, he did not play well. Like, and Timsy even told me that himself. It's not like I'm calling Timsy out. He even said he did not have a good game. I'm pretty sure you won one of them, but that's because you got a fat backpack from you. Wait, what?
I thought you were about the one from yesterday. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. Go on. Yeah. So you think he just hasn't been able to get into the groove of it? Okay. Cool.
But he was playing well, like in the other games. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, he was playing well in the other games. Just 2 games, most 2 recent games he's played, he hasn't played well. But I expect him to climb up a bit more when the season goes on.
Fair. Do you think the table is fairly representative, though, other than that, in terms of what you'd expect from the skill level of players and stuff like that? If you ignore Timsy down in 9th.
I mean, I expect Jakey to be a bit higher. Jakey, the Irish drum.
Yeah.
He had a bad start, but he's been grinding ranked in 3s, and he's been looking really solid and really speedy.
Mm-hmm.
And probably another person who surprised me a lot was Winter. That man is a speed demon. I've never seen someone so fast. Like, sometimes, I remember against Timsy jumped before him, and he had to do a full turn, and he still bet Timsy the ball. I was like, what? Where'd this man go? It's like a rocket ship. So I'm very surprised with how Winter's playing. I thought he was going to be one of the weaker ones, but he's playing really well.
Thank you, Royzer, actually, for pointing that out to me. You're actually right. Pat Dot should actually be lower on the table. I'll have a look at that afterwards in relation to that. Because I was wondering myself, I was looking at it, he shouldn't be that high. Because he has lost 2 games this week, so I'll reflect that as well, Royzer. Thank you very much for pointing that out, so I'll have a look at that afterwards. Just remind me in the Discord. Send me a PM, Royzer, actually. I'll have a look at it again, but I think you're right, actually. Yeah, I'd agree with that. In relation to it, I think maybe you're overrating Jakey a little bit too much. His offense is good. I'm not sure about his defense, but has there been anyone you played with so far that you've been like, he's not really able to keep up, or
I
it's
don't
just
want I don't want to be mean, but Jo and well, Kansas is a bit of a 50-50. You don't know if he's going to play really well or just be a bot. But that's just Kansas. Jo's a good player. He's probably good, like better than Division Two for most of the part, but just sometimes like when he gets games against like Jakey or Timsy, you can kind of see he's a bit out of place with speed.
hmm And has there been anyone who's really impressed you? Like, I mean, I'm not talking about like Jakey, like Winter, for example. Has he really
Yeah,
impressed you?
yeah.
He's done a good job, hasn't he, to get up that
I
high?
played one. I played one game with him, and he was very solid. Made little mistake. I don't think he might have been a cause for like one goal in that whole series we played. Very solid and very speedy.
Okay, cool.
That's
Let's
all I
get
can
into the
really say
stats
on him.
then, and we can talk more. Or rather, you can shit talk more about these guys in particular since you're here, and this is your chance to shit talk. Points per game, firstly, Panda. You'll be delighted to see that you are second in it, above the 400 mark, where I would say is the golden land. Anything above 400 again is doing a really good job. Anything above 350 is okay. 300's fine. Anything below that, you're not doing enough work, I would say, for your team. So I guess you and Dry, obviously. Let's talk about Dry, and I'll talk about you individually, because so you don't have to boast about yourself too much. But Dry's doing a good job. He's obviously putting up points per game. They're just not reflected in the wins.
Yeah, I mean, he has. I'm pretty sure he's been on a weaker side for most of the games. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure if I can remember correctly. But he's been on for some of the games. He's been on like weaker side, and you can see he's playing a lot of defense. 40 saves, big fat 40 saves, 2.5 saves per game. That's extreme.
Yeah, very extreme, I would say. But conversely, then I'd say anything below 350, you're not doing enough. Well, you're doing okay again, I would say. 300 to 350, you're doing okay. Pengu's in that bracket, even though he's like top of the table or top four at the moment. And then Jo and Crossy are down there. Crossy's only played one series, so ignore his stats. Jo's
Hmm.
not doing enough, would you would say? And Pengu maybe not doing enough, would you say?
Um, Pengu's just got 50. Like sometimes he does really well, and sometimes he's just kind of a bit lost. But if on his day, Pengu's a really good player, very good twos player as well. And Jo is, like I said, sometimes a bit lost depending on of how good the other people are.
Okay.
Can get a bit lost.
And I think the stats have been fairly reflective. I think everyone's doing a decent job in this division in terms of like, being consistent for the most part, would you say? I mean, from me down to cans, like the stats have been fairly complimentary. Everyone's above that 350, so they're doing okay. Would you say? Like, is there
Yeah,
any standout that you can say, I'm a bit surprised by that?
and not really. Everything's kind of as expected, I would say.
Okay,
Maybe Pengu, I'd expect a little bit better.
cool. All right, let's move on to goals per game then, and we can talk about this, and you can talk about who you like playing with. I guess in terms of this. So, Alux is number one, of course. He's played 3 series now, and he's still on 1.42 goals per game, which is a huge number to be honestly putting up. So he's clearly an offensive monster. His twin brother Timsy, of course, is on 1 goal per game, so he's doing a very good job as well. But he's played literally twice as many games, so you'd expect Alex's one to go down over time. Jakey, Mr. English Jakey, he is on 0.95. He's putting up a huge number as well. Winter 0.89. Myself, yourself 0.87, 0.84 respectively. We're all doing really good jobs, I'd say. Anything above that 0.775, you're doing a really good job in offense. There's a lot of goals been scored in these games in Division One, and that's the difference I think between Premier and Division One is the Division One has got Premier level offense, I would say, or close to it, but the defense is a lot worse. Would you say that's reflected in the goals, or would you just say that the creativity is really good in this division?
I mean, depending on the game's creativity is usually pretty solid, and the defense is questionable sometimes, especially from people like me. But yeah, I guess it's quite creative, and the defense is quite a bit lacking, but that's kind of expected because it's below the Premier. In the Premier, you'd see a lot of creativity and really good defense.
Okay. Dry, Cans, and Jay are doing a decent job in terms of goals per game. They're doing enough, but Pengu and Jakey not doing enough at the moment. Just below that
Uh,
0.5.
I mean, Jakey has a lot of assists. He has the highest assists in the league, so
Yeah, well, that came out of
kind
nowhere
of.
from the last series when he took half of my ones. But anyway, go on.
I mean, if he's putting up a lot of assists, like you can kind of let him off, but 4.6 is still quite low. You want to be, if you're getting a lot of assists, you still want to be above like the 0.55 mark, I
hmm
would say.
Yeah.
And Pengu also doing well on assists, probably should be above the 0.5 and 0.55, same
Okay.
as Jakey.
Cool. Let's move on then to assists per game. And Jakey has come up with a load. He got so many in the last series. I think he got, I don't know, like 8 or 9 or something. He came out of nowhere in terms of assists per game. So he's on 0.87, you're on 0.8, I'm on 0.73, Pengu's on 0.7, Gio's a little bit down in 0.62, English Jakey's on 0.59, with Dry on 0.57, and then you got the lower tier players, which we will come to there momentarily as well. Firstly, Jakey and I would say myself, Pengu, other than you, of course, all doing a good job in offense, creating lots of chances, very solid, would you say?
Yeah, and they're, some of them are putting up a lot of goals. Pengu should do a little bit better, but if you're getting assists, like I said, you can let it go. You're doing really well. You're scoring goals and you're putting assists. It's really good to see.
Hmm.
And who else did you mention? Jakey?
No,
Which
just
Jakey?
Irish Jakey. He's obviously number one, but Pengu, myself, obviously is there as well, and obviously you're doing a really good job with a point 0.8 per game as well. Just an interesting note for you, Irish Jakey did put up 4 assists in the last game we played the last day, 2 of which he stole. Let me just mention. Um, so he's obviously got a real boost out of that, and of course you were putting up good numbers always with Alux, which has happened the last 3 games in a row when you got him on your team, so it's easy with that. So you can see why they're reflecting in the numbers there. But what I'd like to point out then is the lower half. Cans, Winter, Timsy, and Alux. Now Alux and Timsy, I think you can excuse Panda because they're high in goals per game, and maybe Winter as well.
I mean, Alux, that's pretty low. I mean, well, fair, he does have 1.42 goals, but 0.17 is a bit
But when you think
dodgy.
about like how many goals he participates in, he's still above 1.5, which is actually okay.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
1.5 is
true.
just okay. So he's there. Like he's putting up a lot of goals and he's in there. Like think about it like this, okay? So you have zero point 0.8 assists per game, and you also have 0.84 goals per game, so you're above the 1.5, and that's where you want to be. He's above that as well, but like for instance, Can's 0.43 and 0.58. He's below that 1.5. He's on what is it?
9 some.
1.01. Is that? I think it's 1.01. I think it is 1.01. So he's like just above one. He's participating in 1 goal per game. So I mean, he's not really doing enough. Winter, I'd say, is maybe not doing enough. He's on the brink, 0.89 plus 0.42. So that would put him on 1.41, something like that, or 1.31, something like that. So maybe those guys aren't really doing enough. Timsy may be a little bit questionable as well. So these guys maybe need to get involved. But Alux, I think, is actually fine because he's scoring so many. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, yeah, he's scoring a lot of goals
Yeah,
and with good accuracy.
cool. Let's move on then to the saves, isn't it? Yeah, saves is next. Okay, so Dry obviously is the standout here, and this is the question I have about Dry. Right, he plays way too much defense, I think, in my opinion. Do you feel like
Yeah,
that's a thing
I'd
as well
agree.
with Dry, or he just doesn't trust his teammates? He doesn't move up enough. Like he's 2.5 saves per game. It's a huge number of saves. And I know he's a ones player, but like this
Yeah,
is this is outrageous, isn't it?
it's outrageous.
Outrageous.
But well, the game that I played with him, we were like stuck in defense for like a lot, so he probably got a ton of saves doing that. But like, I mean, 2.5 is a bit extreme. I mean, if you're at 2, you're doing good in saves, but you shouldn't be at like 2.5. That's like ridiculous.
Yeah, that's really
It
high.
means like you're not going up at all, almost.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Cans, Jakey, and Jakey, Irish and English, of course, both up there above the 1.5, so they're playing a little more defense than maybe they'd like to. In particular, I'd say maybe English Jakey. Conversely, I think everyone else then is doing an okay job on defense. A looks still questionable on defense. Now, I know he scores a lot of goals, but he doesn't create a lot of assists. Is he doing enough on defense? That's
He
the
should
question.
be above like the
The 1.
1.2, I
Yeah.
would say.
So
Well, like
he's not really.
1.42 goals.
Yeah, he's doing enough on offense, but it's different than this division. No, this isn't
Yeah,
Division 2 or 3. You gotta be supporting the defense as well. You can't just get away with it because
defense. Yeah, defense makes a lot of difference in this division. If you have questionable defense, you're gonna score. They're gonna score a lot of goals.
yeah, as
Cause
we've
like
seen, a lot of our games have been really high scoring compared to the Premier Division, which we'll talk about there shortly. And finally, Panda, let's talk about your favorite thing in the world, the
should
shooting.
have said it.
There you go,
Sorry.
cool. If that's the final plug of that.
I'm
Where
still
is it
Premier
there now?
Division,
One
right?
second. Shooting. So shooting. Yes, here we go. And we'll go to Premier Division. Yeah. So Alex and Timsy are both above the 40%. So the Twins are firing 84% between them, which is insane when you think about it like that. You know,
Like
the one household is putting away 84% shooting percentage, but 43% for Alux, 41 for Timsy. And to be fair, they're both really good stats because they're both putting up a good amount of shots. Like Alux putting up 3.25 shots per game, which is a lot. Timsy's putting away 2.4. That's not as much, but he's still putting away 40% of them. Then you've got Jakey, you've got Dry, you've got Winter, all above 30% shooting accuracy. And Dry's barely putting up any shots, Panda, 1.75 per game. The other two are putting up decent amount,
Like
around that 2.5.
that's when you know you're playing a bit too much defense. Like having 2.5 saves and 1.7
5
shots per
shots.
game.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd agree with that. Then there's a patch in the middle there with me, Cans, yourself, and I would say Jo, just about doing enough there in terms of the offense. But then Jakey and Pengu, their shooting percentage is really low. They're getting a lot of chances. 2.87 shots per game, 3.24. Now, here's what you think about, right? They get a lot of assists, those two. I think it was Jakey in particular, right? So he's clearly creating a lot of offensive pressure.
Like, then again, like your shooting percentage can't go down if, like, say you booming off the backboard and get an assist from it. Like you sometimes you'll get a shot for hitting above the crossbar.
Yeah.
So like you do lose a lot of like shooting percentage from that.
But to be fair, in
per
those
se.
situations, shouldn't you be putting it on net rather than putting it above? That's the question you have to ask there. Like, how close is he putting it to the net?
Like sometimes if you put it on net, they're gonna save it, so it might be better to actually miss it. Like, there is some situations like that. If you put it, like, say they're on the right side net and you put it like to the left post, they won't make the hit too far away, and then their last man net, get free goal or something like that. Depends. It's all like situational, I guess.
Okay, cool. Panda, final thing I'm going to ask you now is to look at the table and tell me, is there anyone you've enjoyed playing with so far, like a lot? And then we'll ask about promotion relegation. But who's the player you've really enjoyed playing with so far, and why?
Alux, because it's really easy to rotate around and it's just fun playing with Alux. Good crack. Same with Timsy.
Okay.
But I haven't played Timsy yet because Matrix and shit. What?
Okay, cool. Okay, relegation. Who's going to go down?
Cans, Rossi, and
Probably AJ because he's not going to play, right?
Well, is he not getting kicked out of the division because he hasn't played?
No, he's still in the division because he can still play his games. But he'll probably relegate, you'd assume. So assuming that there's only 2 relegation spots, you'd imagine Crossing Cans, or would you put Jakey in there? What would you think? Maybe JO?
I'd say Crossing
Cans.
Okay. And maybe JO might be there, depending.
Okay.
But
cool.
Crossing Cans probably.
Promotion.
Jakey, you, and Alo.
I rate that. That's why you're
maybe
my teammate. You know what I mean? Like I rate that. Like that's good. I like that. Yeah. Cool. Cool. I would say for relegation, ignoring AJ. I would say Cans and Jo. I think Crossy can get out of it. On the promotion side, Jakey's a certainty, I think.
Yeah.
Pengu, depends what teammates he gets. He could be in there. I think Winter might have already done enough. We'll see. Alux as well. I don't know. It's kind of hard to call the other 2 positions. I would probably leave it as is for now. Between them, I would rate my chances. I'd still give you a shot. I would give Dry and Jo a shot, also going up, but I reckon he'd go down. I think anyone from Dry upwards definitely has a chance of promoting, but I think Jakey's a certainty. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, Jakey. Just certainty. I think he probably should have been like Premier Division from the start.
Yeah, he's too good. Cool. All right. Panda, Premier Division time. Let's get straight into this right now. This is the final one, guys. For those of you who stayed with us for the 53 minutes so far, thank you very much. It has gone on a bit longer than normal, but actually Panda has actually been given decent insights, so that's why we've kept it going. Let's get into Premier, Panda, and let's have a look at the results from the week, of course, with Walshy, Ghost, and Mug 3-0ing Demox, Mayday, and Arctic at the start. Then there was a 2-3 for Walshy, Red Eyes, and Blah over Ghost, Demox, and Ineffable. So Demox, of course, has gone from first down to fourth. And then Mug, Red Eyes, and Future have beaten 3-1 of Blah, Mayday, and Ineffable. Mayday having a sub in there for Vert, who's been warned in the meantime for some behavior. Red Eyes. The cream always rises to the top in online play. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, basically.
I mean, just too good.
I see Red Eyes as like a really solid player. He's like, if you'd like put him in the 6-mans, you put money on like him to probably win the 6-mans. Like, didn't he win all last season elite in the 6-mans?
He's won both of them. He's 2-time season elite champion. Yeah.
So like you can see that he's a good 6-mans player. So you'd put money on him to finish in at least the top 3.
Yeah.
I would say. And obviously Mug, he's a monthly really good player. 2-time LAN champion. Only attended 2 LANs. So like you'd put him up there as well. And Blad, Demox, Walsh, all them. They're quality players. Demox hit like what 1870, 1860 something. So like he must be doing something good to get that high of a rank.
Yeah.
So I would say it's tight. I say Red Eyes and Mug probably are the most contending for the champion,
For the
but
championship.
you
Yeah.
never know.
Okay. Cool. Let's come back to that then later on. Let's get straight into our final part, lads, the Premier Division stats, and let's go straight in with the points per game initially. And well, look, ignore Vert because he's only played the one series, but he's putting up a huge amount of points per game. Let's look at the points. Our very own teammate Arctic up there on 377. But here's the thing: this points per game is actually quite lower than Division One. But I think that's because Division One we score so many goals, and they're not scored as many in this division. But so far you have to say Arctic, Walshy, Mug, Ineffable, Red Eyes, Fuchsia, Ghost, all doing enough on the team side. Would you say?
Yeah, definitely doing just about enough for some of them, but definitely more than enough for the other half.
Okay. But would you say, like, I guess Fuchsia, Ghost, Blah, Mayday, Demox maybe not doing quite enough then, considering they're a bit lower? Like, it's a bit different from other divisions Premier because points
Yeah,
don't really matter, I think, is the fair message. We had Red Eyes coming on the last day, giving out Demox a little bit of a banter. But I would actually disagree with him. Like, you do have to put up good amount of points per game, but they're still putting up decent points. It's not like they're putting up, like, 100 points per game or 200 points per game. They're doing enough here, aren't they? I mean,
yeah.
what are
I
your
mean,
what's
when
your
you're not
thoughts on this?
like when the defense is so good, like you're not going to be scoring many goals, and like goals are usually the most points you get from. Like that's the best way to get points is scoring goals. You get the most points for scoring goals. So when your defense is that good and like there's games are really low scoring, you don't really expect them to have really high points, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like anything above like I'd say like 275, you're actually doing probably all right, in my opinion.
Okay.
Maybe 300 probably
No,
be the
I
max.
agree with that. I mean, like they're doing enough. I mean, Demox must be doing something right. He's on 57.9% win percentage. And to be fair, all these guys are on really high win percentage. The only one who isn't is Ineffable, but we'll talk about him a little bit later and why that number is so low. And I was talking to him at like 5 a.m., 6 a.m. about that yesterday, or today, should I say, rather. So we'll have a look at that as well a bit later on. Lockie, yes, you probably should be in the Premier. Yes, you are undefeated in Rocket League Ireland tournaments that you've competed in. I know that because you've only competed in one and you won it. So well done. Um, Panda goals per game next. Again, ignoring Vert because he's only played the one. Ineffable's on 33.34 win percentage, right? So he's played a lot of games, but he's been swept or 3-1 in a lot of them. And the only series he won, he 3-0'd. But he's putting up good goals, and he's clearly an offensive player. 0.78 per game.
Yeah,
He's the only one above that
offensive
magic
player.
number. What would you say?
Yeah, I say he's a really good offensive player. Like he hit 1900, definitely doing really well on offense. He's what like 0.1 ahead of the next closest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So like he's definitely like the goal scorer for the team that he's been on, and not like the passer or the goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Compared to the other people.
Okay. No, I'd agree with that. Liam Mull, 31, Royzer, Stephen Haskell, and Dr. Jo, better known as Jo. Thank you very much, guys, for the follows so far on the stream today. Panda, we've obviously talked about Ineffable right there. Fuchsia, of course, is another offensive monster, I would say, putting up 0.65. Walshy, Red Eyes, Mug, Mayday, Demox, Arctic, Blah, all doing enough on the offense just about for this division. Ghost is the only one below the 0.5. What are your thoughts there?
I mean, when Ghost is really trying and doing well, he's usually a defensive player. He's very mechanically skilled, but I wouldn't see him as an offensive player when he's really trying. Like whenever he plays with me, all he does is go for clips. Well, that's because he wants to get nixes. But anyways, like he's more of a defensive player in my mind, and
Yeah.
he will like start. He's more of the person who will start the pass play or something like that, like boom it up the field to a teammate, and then the teammate will pass
Rather
it off.
than the one
Goal
risking the
scorer.
commit, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, and I'd say that would probably be the same with Blah, Arctic, Demox, Mayday. I would say maybe Mug as well. Well, they're the guys who would be more inclined to go for it. So I'd agree with that. Perfect. Okay. Then the assists per game, Panda is next up, and I guess with assists per game, there's never really a big surprise when you see Mug on top of it because it's what he's good at. It's what he's known for. And he's on 0.72 assists per game there, so he's done a very good job. Red Eyes, of course, putting up a very good number of assists as well. And you can clearly see the transformation of Red Eyes from LAN. Again, once it comes to online play, he's just a different player, different kettle of fish altogether. 0.64 assists per game. Everyone below that then, now here's the thing. They're not creating a lot of chances. And here's the thing, Panda. When chances or when goals are scored, my theory is it's always because a player made a mistake and it's an open net. These assists are clearly showing that, would you say, rather than passing plays?
Yeah, like I don't like you can kind of see who the creative players are on the teams. Like there's a big gap, so you'd see like Mug and Red Eyes being like the ones to make the pass plays, and maybe Walshy as well. But like you always see Mug as the person to like make like an unreal pass, just so give that creativity to score goals.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably the one you want on your team if you have a really good like offensive player.
Yeah.
I would say.
I would absolutely agree with that. But that doesn't always translate, of course, as we know. On the other side of things, then, I would say everyone, of course, below 0.5 is not really great. But I would say everyone from Blah, I would say Demox, Blah, Fuser, Ineffable, Arctic, in particular the bottom two, they're not doing enough on offense, are they, with an assist per game like that? Particularly,
Yeah.
I would say Arctic, I would say Blah, because Fusion and Ineffable are scoring goals, but these two in particular aren't creating enough.
Mm.
What would you
Yeah,
think
I'd
there?
agree.
Should
I'd
we
agree.
be pulling
But
Ross aside and telling him, listen, this question marks over your
but
future?
I just I just see I think it's a solo key player. Like he's not he's the one to like play really good defense and like get the ball out to a teammate. I don't see him as a person who's positioned for a pass or like passing the ball. Especially from when we play with him, it's usually not to like diss our teammate, but it's usually me or you starting to pass in place.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm being honest.
Yeah.
So I kind of expect Ross to have like a low assists per game.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, look at the saves per game. It's what we know Ross for.
Yeah, absolutely. And that brings us to the saves per game. And Ross is indeed right up there with a huge, big fat 2 saves per game. He's clearly playing a lot of defense. It's what he does best, and I would agree with that. And I would also say you're right in pointing out Walshy, a saver as well per game, but also Ghost as well. When he try hards, he's a defensive player. And Mug, interestingly enough, has been playing a bit of defense, a lot more than a lot of other people have been playing, which is a bit surprising. Any thoughts on these stats here, firstly?
Kind of expected. Fuchsia 0.8. Usually a really good offensive player, really creative offensive player. Demox like sit back, expected to have decent amount of saves. Mug though, it's actually quite surprising to have. I expect him to have like 4 saves, something like 1.6 is actually quite high. I know he's very mechanically skilled, so I'd expect to be able to save the ball quite a lot. And well, for Walshy, GC ones player, expect him to have a lot of saves as well. I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
Very
Okay.
good ones player.
Perfect. And on the other side then of things, we said 1 save per game. You'd want that as a kind of a minimum, but I would say more, maybe 1.2. But 1 is okay, I think, in my mind. Anything above that, so Ineffable's just there. Fuser not doing enough in defense. I think that's a fairly fair thing to say. Would you say?
Yeah, I agree. It's not enough in my opinion.
I mean,
I know I can't stretch it to these, but it's not. I think Fuchsia should be doing a bit more.
of course. I'm not asking
saves.
you to talk down on these guys, and that's not what you're here for. And these guys know that they're just looking for your opinion on the stats. But like,
I would say
Future,
like
yeah.
Sorry, I would say like with Fuchsia's mechanics, he should be doing a bit more, like saving the ball.
Cool.
If you were to put it that way.
I put it that way as well. Cool. Let's move on then finally, Panda, to our final thing, of course. And that is your favorite thing. Please do not say it. Don't say it. I swear to God. Right, we're going to go shooting percentage. That's okay. Right, guys, this is the last one, of course, and then we'll go back to the table, and then Panda will nominate who he thinks is going to go down and who he thinks will be the front runners, and then I'll ask him to call a champion for season 1. Ineffable and Walshy are the 2 guys in particular I want to pay attention to here in terms of their shooting percentage, and also maybe a little bit with Fuser. Those 2 are putting up a lot of they're not putting up a lot of shots, Panda, but what they're putting up is a lot of accuracy. What do you think?
Yeah, I would still expect Walsh to have a bit more shots, even though he's getting good accuracy. But if he's only putting like 1.8 shots on net, like you can't expect him to have a high shooting percentage, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's pretty much it. 2.45 and 31 is probably the best seed there. Ineffable. Yeah, and Ineffable is definitely a really good offensive player.
Yep. But he has been found
2.5.
lacking maybe in that midfield game, and he's recognised that himself. I guess no one's below 20% Ghost is on the brink, but clearly everyone's really accurate and really skill Panda. And this is the first division we've seen this in that no one's below that number. So clearly these guys are doing a good job here. Um, like you could say technically Blad, Emox, Red Eyes, Arctic, Ghost not doing enough, but that's only because the other guys are higher. But as I've always said, just to you and to other people, if you're putting up 20% or more, you're doing okay. Anything above 30 is ideal. So we can't really criticize any of these guys, can we?
No, not really.
Cool. Great. Guys, that has been the end of that. Let's look back at the table for our final part of this video. And for the guys who stick with us for this whole 1 hour and 5 minutes exactly as of this moment, thank you very much. We're at the end now. And let's hear it from Panda. Panda, who do you think is going to relegate at this moment?
Relegate. Oof. Ghost's gonna hate you for this, but I'd say Ghost, Fuchsia, and maybe Ineffable. That's probably the hardest one. Like everyone's really good, and you could see them climbing back up. But that's what I would say the most likely are. Is the three bottoms except for Vert, unless
Okay.
Vert doesn't play any games. Then.
Which is entirely possible. Yeah. Yeah, I think Ghost and Ineffable are going to find it tough with the amount of games they've already lost. I'd probably rate Ineffable's chances more because he's a higher ranked player and he knows his mistakes. Because you don't go around messaging me at 5 a.m. saying I've reviewed all my replays. I think I know what I've been doing wrong in these games compared to what I've done in ranked. So he's obviously put a lot of thought into it. He's not like a lot of other kids who've gone around threatening to quit the league once they lose a game. So he obviously is a very mature player and he knows exactly what he's looking at. So I mean, I actually don't think Ineffable will relegate. I think he's willing to grind this out. I think Ghost will relegate. I think if Vert doesn't play his 8 games, he'll relegate. But if he does, he should be okay. I think Fuchsia will relegate. I think it'll either be Mayday or Arctic who will relegate. I don't know which one. I would say based off of what I've seen, I'd actually probably say Arctic will relegate. I think Mayday is just about doing enough. But I'd obviously put faith in my teammate to stay up. But I think Fuchsia and Ghost aren't quite showing enough at this moment in time. Fuchsia's had 2 games now where he's won, where I would say he's been on the better team by quite some distance, especially the one yesterday because Vert never showed and Mayday had to sub in. That just definitely was not like a fair team, but that's just the way that can go. So yeah, I think those will go down. Panda, who's going to be challenging for the title, and who's going to win it?
I would say Mug's gonna win it, and Red Eyes, and I would say Demox would be on his tail. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that. I think Demox, Mug, Red Eyes. I think Blah actually. Yesterday was the only time I haven't seen him play well. Every other time I've actually seen Blah play, he's been actually really good. Really impressed me. He's played a lot better than what I thought he has the ability to show. So he's been very, very impressive lately. So I wouldn't rail up Blah. I think Blah's a dark horse. I think Demox and Mug are the chasers. I still think Red Eyes will win it. I think he's shown way too much ability now, and just consistency. And he closes out games. That's the difference between Red Eyes, I think, and all these other guys. And Red Eyes won't tilt off the face of the room when he has a loss. Sure, he'll point out if someone's a bad, he might blame someone, but he's not gonna, go off crying about it. So I think Red Eyes will win this just because his mental, his game is just there. Yeah. And finally, Panda, who, as a question to you now,
Okay.
who has been the most impressive player across all divisions compared to
Okay,
expectations?
let me just. Actually, you know what? I would actually say Dan because I did not expect Dan to do as well as he's doing. Like Lawler, I can kind of expect how well he played from Milan. Jakey was kind of obvious, and Red Eyes, he's just so consistent. Yeah, I would say Carrick Dan.
Okay, cool. I mean, I have to give it to. I think Jay Prey has been unbelievable in his division. I think he's not getting enough credit because Lawler has been so good in that division, but I think he's my pick. Him or Paddy, I think. Maybe Winter
Oh
as
yeah,
well.
actually, yeah.
Maybe
It'd be
Winter
Dan or
as well.
Paddy for me.
Yeah, I think Winter maybe as well in our division has been very good. He's obviously had a loss, but I can't remember who Winter lost to. Who did he lose to? I can't remember, but clearly he's obviously done a good enough job. So yeah, perfect. Panda, thank you very much for joining me for this podcast of Rocket Mondays, guys. This podcast will be available on YouTube on my YouTube channel. I will link it in advertising there as soon as it goes up. So I expect it to be up by about 9 o'clock tonight. I hope to see you in the games. tomorrow, Friday, and Sunday. And guys, it's been really fun setting up these leagues. I know a lot of you have enjoyed it. I know some of you can tilt. I know some of you can get annoyed with the games. Stick with it. You're playing this game because you enjoy the game. Always keep that in mind. Remember why you're doing it, and you'll battle through it. For now, thanks very much, and we will see you next Monday. Bye bye.